Well, we're joined now by political scientist Peter Mathews, who's in Long Beach in California. Hello to you, Peter. Thank you for joining us here on Sky News. So another day, another Twitter tirade. What do you make of these latest tweets against the FBI?
It's remarkable. It's a president attacking his own FBI and claiming the FBI needs to be cleaned up. That sounds pretty dangerous, that the president is interfering with the FBI, which is the foremost investigative arm of the country's federal government. And he said that, I think, in order to take attention away to a certain extent from what's really going on in his own investigation about himself and the other people around him regarding the possible Russia involvement as well. So it's a very amazing statement that he makes about his own FBI. I think it's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, relations between Donald Trump and the FBI have been strained. They were strained under James Comey. They're now, once again, they're strained. What does this say about that relationship with his fellow officials?
Well, it says that as a president that's out of touch, in a sense, with his own administration, his own fellow officials, including Secretary of State Tillerson, whom he kind of dissed in public when Tillerson was trying to say that he needs to negotiate with North Korea. Donald Trump told him, stop negotiating. We're going to handle this our own way. So he doesn't have much respect for his cabinet members and other people. Now the FBI has come under that. So it's a major problem for him. I think it's getting deeper and deeper. And since Michael Flynn has pled guilty to one charge, it looks like Robert Mueller has been able to get some information from Michael Flynn and is working very closely with him to get evidence about possible other people being involved. Who knows how high up it'll go, whether it's just Jared Kushner or possibly even further than that. In terms of the involvement, I think Michael Flynn is the key. That's quite remarkable what's going on right now there.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Michael Flynn's cooperation with that investigation. Is that a game changer? Is that investigation really closing in on Donald Trump himself now?
It is absolutely a game changer in the sense that he's the first administration or former administration official to actually plead guilty, an official at the highest level. This person was a national security advisor. He was a top campaign official. That means that he knows a lot about what went on during the campaign, when the investigation is taking place in that time period, as well as what happened after the campaign, after there was attempts to, when Flynn lied to the FBI and to the vice president. And by the way, Donald Trump admitted that and said that's why he fired Flynn. And yet he asked Comey, according to Comey, which I think most people believe, he asked Comey to go ahead and to let go of the case against Michael Flynn. That is the key. That could be considered obstruction of justice, and that's where certain members of Congress are looking in that direction because of that statement itself, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, President Trump has said that his chief lawyer actually drafted that tweet on his behalf in error. How damaging could this whole incident be?
Quite damaging, because it also causes him even more credibility now, because now he's trying to deny something that was done in his name and his Twitter account and saying someone else wrote it, someone else did it. He's done this before, and it really reduces his credibility because people see him shifting the blame rather than taking responsibility himself for what's come out of his own Twitter account. I think people are really concerned about his credibility, and this is very important with a world leader of the stature of the President of the United States. He has to be credible. I mean, every single country in the world practically is affected by American policy statements, the President's policy comments, and for him to go out on Twitter and make these comments and then to not be credible and not have a really comprehensive, well thought out, carefully advised position in foreign policy especially, it's very dangerous, especially given the North Korea situation right now as well.
Well, senior Democrats have accused the president of an obstruction of justice. Is that an impeachable offense, and do you think it will go that far?
It is absolutely an impeachable offense. In fact, Richard Nixon, there was articles of impeachment voted in the House Judiciary Committee back then, and they voted that as one of the charges of obstruction of justice. And if this is, it's like a deja vu again, and this is the biggest charge one could have for an impeachable offense. It only takes one offense, not any more than one, and there may be several articles of impeachment put forward. That will be one of them, and it's a very big one.
Well, he's been fairly unscathed by previous scandals, hasn't he? Do you think Donald Trump will get through this one unscathed?
I don't think he'll be unscathed. The question is, will he be actually put up with the articles of impeachment past the House Judiciary Committee and the House itself in order for the case to go into the Senate and have the Senate remove him? That's a big step, 2 steps on the ladder that are huge. So I'm not sure it'll go that far, but I can certainly see where he's in really big trouble right now. At the very least, it's distracting him from focusing on what needs to be done, but he's not too focused anyway on major policy issues, and that's very a shame. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. This is a very big hurdle right now he's come up against regarding his situation, in my view.
Well, let's move on to the crisis with North Korea, shall we? The U.S. and South Korea currently taking part in military drills. Is that such a good idea, considering the warnings coming from North Korea?
It's not a good idea for other reasons as well, and that is that we need to ratchet down this high level of tension, which is just completely dangerous for the whole world. And we know that North Korea a couple of times have taken small little steps to back down. For example, when they threatened to launch 4 missiles at Guam, not at Guam directly, but near Guam, to prove that they have an ability to counteract an American offensive, President Trump should have seized that opportunity and said, look, we're going to thank you, North Korea, for doing that. Now we're going to also postpone our military maneuvers with South Korea for at least 6 months. Instead, he went right on and continued the maneuvers back in the summer. And now this time, this is the largest air and military maneuver just outside the DMZ that's ever occurred before, with over 200 planes taking part in it, airplanes, as well as troops and tanks. So this is huge, and it's a bad time to do it right now, particularly since we saw what happened. North Korea did not test anything. No missile, no nuclear bomb for 2 months. That should have...
Oh, I'm afraid.
North Korea hasn't tested. Let's not insult them. Let's not put North Korea on a state terrorism sponsor list, but he did that. And then here comes this situation. So I don't know if Trump is just misreading it or if he's just completely oblivious to what should be done.
But sanctions clearly aren't working in dealing with that crisis with North Korea, are they? What other options are there left on the table?
Negotiation. That's the only option. And the other option is unthinkable, any kind of a war, especially that could escalate into a nuclear war. So we've got to have Mr. Trump get some sense into negotiating with North Korea. And by the way, the latest we've heard from the Russian Parliamentary Delegation that went to North Korea is that the North Koreans are willing to sit down and negotiate with the U.S. if Russia were also involved as a third-party arbitrator, so to speak. And we should look into that and see, is that legitimate and true that happened? I believe it probably did, because you wouldn't have a high-level Russian parliamentary delegation saying that. And that should be seized upon, and let's work on negotiations, because this can be settled. Don't forget, back in the 1990s, the agreed framework worked very well for 8 years under President Bill Clinton to keep North Korea at bay from this nuclear development, and the U.S. was helping out with other kinds of economic aid, and it worked out. This is a situation which is not perfect in the world, but we cannot afford to take a chance with nuclear weapons and nuclear armed state, as North Korea is now, with the long-range ICBM that it launched, I think, successfully.
Okay, Professor Peter Mathews, great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us here on Sky News.